So Kingdom again is basically another one of those animes that basically nearly reached perfection, but there are one or two factors that basically didn't allow it to do so just because of those. However, in general, I really did like about 95% of everything of Kingdom, except with Season 1, you basically have to make it past the first 12 episodes that you didn't like, and in Season 2, you basically have to make it past the first 10 episodes to get to the actual action, because the first 10 episodes or so are basically like kind of flashbacks, character history, and politics, and all that other kind of stuff. Also, before I get started, this is it's going to be a Season 1 and Season 2 review of Kingdom, but it will mainly be a Season 2 review because I did watch them all in one. However, I will give some slight comparisons of Season 1 and Season 2, and I will try to give minimal spoilers as well. So first off, basically for the story, I gave an 8.5. Basically, it's a quite unique story as well. It starts in the Warring States of China about 200 to 300 BC, somewhere in that time period, and it basically tells us about the story of two boys, the king of the state of Jin, and a basic commoner, a person who basically works on a farm, something like that, and his name is Jin. So yeah, Jin from the state of Jin, or I'm not really 100% sure how the names are pronounced, but that's what they are anyways. Yeah, well, so sorry for any incorrect pronunciation first of all. But yes, it basically revolves about these two boys and how they both have quite high dreams for the current era. So the first of all, the dream of Jin is to become, for a commoner first of all, is to become one of the greatest generals under the heaven. So basically the greatest general in the world, for his name to be renowned throughout all of China. And then the dream of the current king of China, Zen, is basically to unite all of China, something that has never been done before and was only tried by his great-grandfather, King Zhao, I think his name was. Anyways, if you move from that, that's basically how the story starts, but then with a lot more plot twists and a more character development and progression, it actually leads basically from one story, which we get within the first 1 to 5 episodes, to basically another story that emerges from that story, which you come to find either around the start of Season 2 or about halfway through Season 1. Which is quite nice to see how the story can transgress or progress from one thing to another thing, yet also maintain its original storyline, which is really good to see. So for the story, I give it an 8.5. For the ending of Season 1, I gave it an 8.5 as well. For the ending of Season 2, I gave it a 7. For the ending of Season 1, basically it's a nice it's a nice ending, basically due to the fact that the last battle is basically, the last battle is not the ending, but we have like 1 or 2 episodes that conclude off, that show us what happened to Zen, what happened to Jin after the final battle, and then it shows us their say a little bit of their character development, their honorifics and all that kind of stuff, like their achievements that they got from the war. Whereas with Season 2, basically the final war ends, and then we have like 5 episodes of the conclusion of what happens to Jin and what happens to Zen, which like they could have done those 5 episodes in 1 to 2 episodes as well. So I felt like the ending for Season 2 kind of dragged on, so I gave it a 7. Overall though, the endings were quite nice and they were really good to see because you know that you're going to get a next season out of them, so that's why I actually liked the endings. For Season 2, not so much. You're not 100% sure if you're going to get a Season 3, but seeing as the manga is up to like 363 chapters and they only created the first 259 into anime, then you're hoping that you will get a Season 3. So for those of you also who watched the anime and want to read the manga, basically if when you finish Season 2, the end point of Season 2 is the start of chapter 259 of the manga. So basically that's where you will start reading. And then so next, basically plot, gave an 8.5 for both Season 1 and Season 2. Basically Season 1, it's a nice steady plot, and we have basically there are 3 war arcs. Basically we have the first arc is basically a rebellion against the throne, and then the second arc is basically the first war, and then the third arc is basically the second war. So it's a nice steady plot how it just we are shown historical basically moments. Well, I'm pretty sure they're historical moments. I'm not rating the history for Kingdom because I know absolutely jack about China's history, so I won't be rating it, but I'm pretty sure it basically shows us Season 1 shows us 3 major events that happened in China's history, and Season 2 shows us basically 1 to 2 major events that happened in China's history. I'm not 100% sure on this, but yeah, if that's what happened, then it's obviously a good plot. But yeah, so that's what I liked about it, because I'm pretty sure that the plot of the story are actually events that happened in China's history, so I gave it an 8.5. The moral 10 for both seasons. Basically, the moral of season 1 just transgresses onto season 2, so basically the same moral, except it's just exemplified a little bit, or it's a little bit, yeah, exemplified, say, in a little bit of season 2. So basically, in season 1, the moral is basically like we don't cry over, we don't mourn over the deaths of our fallen soldiers. We just have that burden on our shoulders, and that's basically what makes us stronger. We don't cry over them, we don't mourn over them, we just remember them. We take their sacrifices to heart, and we just remember what they wanted us to remember of them. So basically, remember their lives, not their deaths, kind of thing, which is like a nice little bit of a moral to that story. And then in season 2, it just basically goes to say, because they have a newcomer into their woo, which is basically Shin's basically mini army. So yeah, they have a newcomer, and basically he's affected a lot by these deaths. And then it goes on to tell us how even if you're a newcomer, don't let these deaths affect you, sort of thing. So you basically have to basically adapt quite quickly to war. If you're going to go to war, then you have to adapt quite quickly. Basically, I gave it a 10 just because I thought that it was a quite touching moral, something it was good to take out of this anime. For sense, basically when it comes down to the sense of this anime, in season 1 I gave it, I'm pretty sure, an 8.5. In season 2 I gave it a 7, just because of the fact that in season 1 it's both the same negative points that happened in season 1 and 2 that took points from sense. That factor was blood. When they cut people or when they chop their heads off, whatever, there is quite a lack of blood. Because after I watched season 1 and then I looked a little bit at the manga, when somebody gets their head chopped off, they basically have like guts and blood and whatever spilling out of their necks. And then it's a lot more gory in the manga than it is in the anime. And for an R17, R18, R17 plus rated anime, you'd expect there to be that kind of blood, that kind of gore, but it wasn't just in that. However, in season 1 it didn't affect it as much as in season 2. So in season 1 I gave it an 8.5. However, in season 2 that point comes more into light because there's a lot more people getting their heads chopped off and a lot more people dying in season 2. So it gets quite annoying when you don't really actually see the blood that you want to see, and especially if you're like me and you kind of pay attention to those kind of things, then it gets more and more annoying the more and more you see that people die and there's not even a scratch on them. It's like, what the fuck, how are you dead? I mean, yeah, fair enough, we understand, but like, there's not a scratch on you. And so, yeah, basically 8.5 for season 1 and a 7 for season 2. Just to be noted though, before I go any further with this review, I gave season 1 an 8.6 and I gave season 2 an 8.5. So it's extremely close for, but there's average scores on them. Yeah, so extremely close, and they're both incredibly good animes. So these negative points have been actually like jacked compared to when it comes to watching this anime. It's like full of suspense, full of like the suspense in season 2 especially is insane. Anyways, continuing on with the review, and I'll talk about those other things in the review. So yeah, with music, for season 1 I gave it a 7, season 2 I gave it an 8, basically just because of the fact that in season 2 the background music is basically, they emphasize it a lot more. So basically in scenes that are sad, they have like really sad music, which like puts an emphasis on the sadness. And then with the scenes that are like have a lot of action packed in it, they have a lot of like kind of like action kind of music, like epic music, basically, you say, with like drums and things like that. However, in season 1 you can't really hear that kind of music in the background, whether it's like faded or whether it's just like low or whatever. I didn't really hear the music, or I didn't really, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but to me it just didn't feel like there was a background music to increase that factor, that sadness, that action, that drama, whatever it was. There was no music behind it to increase that factor, and I just didn't find it. However, in season 2 there was the music to increase that factor, and which was awesome. So basically sad scenes were sadder, action scenes were more action packed, and you found dramatic scenes a lot more dramatic, which is cool. So basically moving on from that, so art was an 8, basically both for season 1 and season 2. I'm pretty sure I gave it an 8. However, in season 1, because of the art is a lot more, it's more realistic than other animes. It's probably like 3D like. I think they use like 3D models or something like that to make the anime art in this. But yeah, for this I'm not sure, but yeah, I found it like it was really hard to adapt to really quickly. However, the first episode is like 50 minutes long, so after you do watch the first episode, you do kind of adjust to basically the anime. But however, once you do adjust, the art style is really good, and they maintain the art style from season 1 to season 2, with the fact of, you know, some characters do change with time. Obviously, they had like a 1.5 time skip or a 7-month time skip or something like that. So yeah, overall, the art was really good. The colors that they used were nice. The scenery was all good. not a lot of negative points to say about the art, except about the fact that it takes a while, especially for me, it took a while to adapt to the art style that they use in Kingdom. Moving on, characters. 9. I really like the characters in Kingdom. I reckon the best characters I've seen in any anime so far. When it comes down to character development and character progression, I absolutely love the way that they did it. Basically, character development and character progression isn't done through things like I'm getting, well, even though it is done, it's not a major factor on how it is done. So basically, things like how strong you are, like your abilities, your powers, all that kind of things that you see in other shonen type animes aren't really a main factor of character progression and character development in this anime, which is quite nice to see. Basically, what they focus on in character development, character progression, because of the fact that Shin was from a low birth, he was a commoner. Things that they focus on are things like his status. So, for example, from going from a commoner to a 300-man general to then becoming the greatest general under the heavens, that is what his character progression is. So, yeah, he obviously hasn't become the greatest general under the heavens yet, because I don't want to spoil it for you guys who are going to watch it. But obviously, he will one day become the greatest general under the heavens. But yeah, so his character progression when it comes to his status in the army, in the military, is really what you like to see. So when he gets that title, you're like, oh my god, yes, finally he did it. So when he kills like an enemy general and then he doesn't get the title, or he does get the title, if he doesn't get the title, you'd be like, what the fuck, why did he get the title? And when he does get the title, you'd be like, yeah, like things like that. And a lot of the times it's exactly how I was. I mean, for example, the episode when he's at his honors ceremony where he gets his badges and things like that, that was probably one of the funniest and greatest episodes of all time that I found, because of the fact that there was a lot of character progression in that, and it was filled with somewhat a little bit of comedy as well, which is quite cool. So yeah, that's basically, and also the fact that not all the characters look the same was another good high point for this anime. If I had to give it one down point for characters, which is why it didn't get a perfect 10, was due to the fact that, for example, some characters always have their eyes open or always have their eyes closed. For example, Teng, an assassin who works for Orki. Like I said, I don't really know anything about pronunciation, so forgive me when I pronounce it wrong. Yeah, so Teng, who works for Orki, basically is an assassin in 24/7, non-stop. I never saw him blink once, not once. And then there was this other character in season 2 who never even opened his eyes once, and that gets quite annoying sometimes, especially because like you're just like, hurry the fuck up and blink, because that's impossible. Like, what are you doing? Like, you want to crack or some shit. Anyways, yeah, that's probably the only negative point I had towards characters. So when it comes to enjoyment, gave it an 8.5. I really enjoyed this anime. You know, it was filled with action scenes, filled with basically anything for a person who likes these action types of animes. And then there was, in season 2 though, there was a bit more for, it was a bit of everything, kind of, because there was a little bit of romance. I'm not going to rate the romance and things on it because there was only a little bit of it, but yeah, there was a little bit of romance. There was a little bit of what else was there? A little bit of mystery, a little bit of other stuff as well. I can't really remember from the top of my head, but yeah, the main 3 genres that they had in common, basically, or season 1 and season 2 in common, was basically action and military. For both action, and so action got a 9 because the war is like 24/7, constantly action packed. It was incredible for those action lovers. Military a 10. For even those who don't know anything about military, if you watch season 1 and season 2, you'll probably start to understand even a little bit about military. And then for season 2, there was actually a really big drama and suspenseful scale. Like, a lot of season 2 was quite dramatic and suspenseful, and to be honest, a lot of the times I actually literally found myself on the edge of my seat, like, what the hell is going to happen now? Like, what the fuck? And so yeah, for that I gave it a 9, which was crazy. So yeah, if you're looking for a genre type anime to fit your genre, so basically the genres of this anime that I put were action, drama, and military. So yeah, military is incredible as well. So if you're like a military fanatic, then I gave it a 10. Even though I don't know a lot about military, because the military part was a big factor of it, I actually found myself understanding a little bit how wars work, both behind the scenes and on the front lines, which is, you know, it's quite cool to give those noobs a little bit of understanding. And then when it comes to personal score, I gave it an 8.5. Basically, the question of the day: would I recommend this anime? Fucking hell, yes. Watch this fucking anime. Watch season 1 and season 2. If you haven't watched season 2, watch season 1 now. Like, I don't even know what you're doing. If you're not watching season 1, just fucking go and watch it, because it was incredible. And then after you finish season 1, hurry the fuck up and watch season 2, because that was also fucking incredible. So yeah, absolutely amazing anime in general. Not a lot of low points, but absolutely incredible high points, because this anime just hits it up there, it hits the benchmark. Similar to those other animes like Kill la Kill and Full Metal, it was another one of those amazing animes that will more than most likely go down in the books, because it was one of those animes that could have got a perfect score, except there were those little few things that lacked in it getting its perfect score. So anyways, that was my review for Kingdom Season 1 and Season 2, well, mainly Season 2. If you liked this review, hit that thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, subscribe. But as always, guys, thanks for watching.